Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anyway Whatever podcast. I'm your host, Mike Fisher, and today's guest is Andrew Barksdale. Andrew runs an art studio for Nike on the Nike campus in Portland. And when he describes what his daily job is, I think people are going to be really stoked because he's got like a dream job, and he's a cool guy and a super talented artist and designer. So this is a good episode. I think people are going to dig it. As always, if you are watching on YouTube, hit subscribe and the little bell so that you can keep updated on all of our new episodes. Like and share any episodes that you watch that you happen to actually like, and recommend this show to other people if you think it's something that they're going to enjoy. Word of mouth is it's crucial to any show like this. If you are listening to the podcast version and you're on iTunes, you can always give us a 5-star review and write a little review for us if you'd like. That stuff is super helpful to us being able to keep making this show. And wherever you get your podcast content, you can give us a like and a share. You can follow us on all the different social media at Anyway Whatever Podcast, on Twitter at AWP_podcast. And my personal art Instagram is at Maximum Fluoride. And this is a great episode. I think everybody's going to like it. See you on the other side. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anyway Whatever podcast. I'm your host, Mike Fisher, and today's guest is Andrew Barksdale, also known as the Droid. What's up, Andrew?
How's it going, Mike?
It's good to have you on, man. I've been looking forward to this one. You're one of my favorite online friends. You always make me laugh, and I'm a huge fan of your art. Andrew is a graphic designer. He works at Nike, and we'll get more into that as we go on, but I want you to get your social media stuff out. Where can people find your work online?
Cool. You can find me online at droidart.com, and my Instagram, which I'm most active on, is the Droid.
Oh, all right. Far out. So anybody who listens to this show is very familiar with the Gigposters.com website that used to exist that was focused on rock posters, and a lot of talk on this show has been about that kind of how many people got helped them get careers out of because it's like you could be a graphic designer and work your whole life and not get half as far as some of the people from Gigposters just because they were on that website. I know jobs got handed out, people got jobs at Sub Pop Records and exactly. Just from being on Gigposters. So I know Andrew from back in the GP days, and we've stayed in contact over the years, and every now and then I buy stuff from his website because he makes all this cool stuff, and even my kids buy stuff from your website. It's kind of awesome. So just right out of the gate, let's just get right into the Nike thing, real quick. You explain to me what it is you do at Nike.
Oh, you froze up on me.
Yeah. Okay.
You want to repeat that? You froze up. All right.
Yeah. So explain to me what it is you do at Nike.
Okay. So at Nike, I have the designer dream job. I work in basically a corporate art studio, where we help designers with their creative dreams. Basically, I teach people how to screen print is one aspect of my job. I work on special projects, whether it's working for something like the Make-A-Wish Foundation, taking in a kid for the day and showing them around and helping them print a custom t-shirt with their name on an NBA jersey, or all the way up to working with like an actual athlete. Like I've worked with quite a few, and like some of them are really mind blowing to me, that I'm sitting around, like I'm standing 2 feet away from this person that I, idolized growing up or something like that. Yeah. And then I'll work on like just day-to-day stuff, like telling a designer like what type of ink they want to use on a shirt, or just, I don't know. It's amazing. Like it's literally like people come up to me and go like, you have my dream job. And like, it's really surprising to me, because, I've never thought I was like a huge like talent in in what I do, but a lot of people have put me in places that have benefited me, and I like, it's just one of those things where I was just like, it seems like I was in the right place at the right time to make something happen, and I wouldn't be where I am, like you mentioned before, without Gigposters.com. Like that was like, I literally got my job at Nike through somebody I met through Gigposters.
Oh, wow. I wasn't aware of that. That's that's crazy. How long have you been there now?
I've been at Nike for 9 years.
Wow.
And I think in next month. So thanks to Lonnie Hurley.
Oh, wow. It was Lonnie's, that dude's rad. So that doesn't surprise me. Does Lonnie work at Nike or
yeah,
did
Lonnie
he?
works at Nike. Yeah, he's still there. He's been there. I think he's been there for like 10 years now. So it was like,
wow.
I was revolving door, and like I just snuck in right behind him. So,
that's excellent. That's totally awesome.
Yeah.
So you're based out, in Portland, and before we started recording, like we were just chit chatting, and you had mentioned that you'd kind of moved all around, and you've been in Portland for about 9 years now. And it's funny, like between Austin and Portland, I think I have more friends in those two cities than I actually do in Los Angeles. So if we were ever going to relocate, the two cities on the short list are Portland and Austin.
Yeah. And it's funny. It's like every time my wife and I like even bring up the subject of, oh, let's maybe like change it up, move somewhere. It's like, where will we move? Well, Austin's pretty nice. Like we know a whole bunch of people in Austin. It's like, meanwhile, the Austinites are like, please don't.
I know, right. Although I'm guessing they'd rather have more Portland people than California people. I think the California people are like, and I think Portland's the same way. Like Portland and Austin are both like, no more from California, please.
Yeah,
we're all full.
Yeah, please stay away.
Yeah. So yeah, we end up in Portland a little bit because one of my closest friends is actually up there now. He was like a Bay Area guy, then an LA guy. Now he's been in Portland for like 3 or 4 years now. So, we're up there every now and then. I love Portland, man. It's a cool city. If maybe the rain would be an issue, but I'm imagining I could probably sort that out if I decided to move there,
It's not terrible. Like
you're lying.
No.
Either that or me and you have a different idea of too much rain.
No, like knowing how much you hate the cold.
Oof.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's like, it barely gets into the 30s. It's usually like in the 40s in the winter. Yeah, it's gray, it's gloomy. But then like now it's beautiful out. It's like 80 degrees and no humidity. And well, it's kind of humid today, but it's not like butt drench humidity in like Oklahoma or something like that.
Oh, right. That is the nice thing about Southern California is it's a dry heat. I mean, it's been hot, but not incredibly bad. But yeah, I do love Portland. I've been there in the summer and it's really nice. And it's just like a cool town, I have so many friends. It's ridiculous. So going back to the Nike thing a little bit. So are the people who are in your studio designers at the company? Are they outside? people that come in from the community? Is it a mix of those things? Like, how does that work?
For the most part, it's designers at Nike, and the space is limited to people that work in Nike design. It's kind of like their oasis of away from like product managers and like PLMs and developers and stuff like that. It's meant to be like a space that the designer can go, be creative, not have to worry about like getting sidetracked by somebody like approving a button or something like that, or like do we need a 3 mil lace and we've only got like 4 mil laces. Is that okay? Some just weird stuff like that. So, but we do bring in outside designers. I've brought in some friends, mutual friends of ours, to come and speak and put on like classes and stuff like that. We brought in Johnny Sampson to do a drawing class while he was in town for another like convention, and
I love that dude's work so much.
Oh my god!
If you're listening to this, Google Johnny Sampson art, and he does these amazing like gouache paintings that look like kind of 60s like board game art or advertising art, and they're so cool. Like he's super talented.
Yeah, and he's the new fold-in guy for Mad Magazine. So
Jesus Christ,
like
you want to talk about it like a dream job? Like who gets that job? You know.
Exactly, right.
And again, that's like another Gigposters version. Like how many of us have gotten these insane jobs? Just like it's incredible. Like I was talking to Jim Mazza recently for an episode, and we were talking about and it's also something I talked with Robert Plant about, who was Plant Weed on Gigposters, and we had talked about the fact that probably in the history of art, there's never been one place that had that many talented people, professionals, working professionals, interacting with each other all day, every day for that amount of time. Like it's got to be unprecedented in the history of art, really. It's wild.
Yeah. I mean, just to like knowing how much time I wasted on that. On that site
was not wasted though, was it?
no, it completely was not wasted. Like it might have seemed like it at the time, like posting stupid photoshops of people with like messed up mustaches.
Photoshops of Jay Ryan. Shout out Jay Ryan.
But yeah, like it was the amount of time that I invested into that site. It paid off, not only in, you know, my social connections and like where I am now professionally, but like talent wise. It was like, where else could you go and just be like, get designer insights from like Kozik or something.
It was a master class like, in whatever you needed to know, because everybody was so free with information. And, you know, I was talking to Jeff Pivido about this, because he's a guest. He's actually, his episode's coming up on Wednesday, but I am like self-taught as a designer. Like I went to animation school. I didn't have any real professional level understanding of graphic design. And it shows in a lot of my early work, but you know, it was like, I went to design school on that website, and, you know, just being able to see the sheer number of examples of different types of design and be able to talk to, like, you know, Mike King or, you know, Art Chantry or, you know, or Jeff Kleinsmith, or like all these, like some of the very best graphic designers that have ever lived on planet Earth. And you could just talk to him and be like, hey, like, you know, and everybody wanted to help everybody. It is such a crazy thing. And it's a shame that there's no archive of it. You know, it went offline, I think due to some technical stuff. I can't remember exactly what the reason was, but there's no real archive of it. And so there's no, you know, like, 1,000 years from now, like it's only going to be known about in books. And because a lot of books came out from that website, and it's kind of a shame. Like I left before the end because it had to be monetized in a way that I didn't feel okay with. And I don't begrudge Clay for having to do what he had to do. It was his business and he had to make money at it. And I do not have any problem with that. It's just at some points in your life, you have to realize if the thing that you're doing is of benefit to you personally, and when it's no longer, maybe it's time to step away. And when he put the moderators in, that was hard for me, because then you had people that you didn't like anyway trying to tell you what you couldn't say. And again, like, I understand that Clay had to do what he had to do, and that's it's fine. And it's like, I just decided that it was no longer something that was for me. And so and the other thing that happened was things like MySpace and Facebook came along, where you could create your own experience and you didn't have to be in a message board with a bunch of people you didn't like. You could make your own little message board and you could have anybody on that you wanted. And so that made it a lot easier to transition into just, going onto Facebook, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. But I guess, like, at the same time, it's also, part of, like, the unknown people, like, coming in is how you kind of, like, grow. And it's like, I didn't know about Pavito. And, like,
Right.
all those nerds, like, and it's like, there's always a different perspective to be had, and I guess it's like you have to experience the stuff that you don't like to know the stuff that you truly do like.
Right.
So,
but when the stuff you don't like starts outweighing the positives, then you have to make some decisions for yourself.
Yeah.
But still to this day, I think my favorite aspect of that site, from a purely humor standpoint, and it's where people like you and Phillips and some other people really got to shine as personalities. It was in the LiveJournal image feed, where there was just one thread. There used to be this website that would post, like, the 100 last images that were put up on LiveJournal, and then you just hit refresh and it would just give you 100 new images. And so people would sit there and post random pictures out of this image feed, and then we would all make jokes about whatever the image was. And there was just so much hilarity that came out of that, that was like, for even after I no longer was participating really in the website, I would just go back to look at that thread and laugh.
Yeah. I mean, there was so much, and it was so new back then, or it was just like, it was almost, it was like the precursor to, like, the meme almost, where it was just like,
oh yeah,
we took the like the random image, like when that random image from the LiveJournal feed would make it into Gigposters, and then, like, that image would circulate into other threads and become its own, like, weird thing that the website just, like, glommed onto.
Yeah, I mean, they really were. They
like,
really were,
inside
like,
joke.
Like this, they were this weird, like, first generation of memes, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I never really thought of it that way. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, well, I'm an interesting guy, so I think about interesting stuff like that. So
you definitely have an interesting mustache at the moment. I gotta give you that. So when going back again to the Nike thing a little bit, so, like, I understand that you guys have, like, all different types of like, materials and equipment in there for people to be able to use, like, from sewing machines to whatever it is, and people can just kind of come in there and just do all kinds of, like, whatever it is they feel like they need to get out of themselves, creatively. And like, how many square feet is the space, and how many people can you get in there when it's not in quarantine?
when it's not in quarantine. Let me see. I think square footage wise, it's somewhere around, like, 15,000 square feet.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. So, and we can fit, like, we've had a couple like speakers come, where we've had like upwards of 300 or 400 people in the space listening to a speaker.
Wow.
So I think like one of our biggest ones was Tom Sachs, the artist, like installation artist, who's on his own like different level. Listening to him talk was pretty cool. So yeah, but the average day we'll service probably a couple hundred designers.
Wow.
And there's it's not just like a big open warehouse. It's divided up. We've got stuff that people can use anytime. It's open 7 days. It was open 7 days a week. And from like 7 a.m. till 10 o'clock at night. And if you were in there at 10 o'clock when the door's locked, you could stay all night if you wanted to. And like we've had interns and stuff do that, like where they're working on final projects. They'll just work through the night in the studio.
Wow.
So a lot of the stuff that we have, like you mentioned, we've got sewing machines, embroidery machines, sublimation, like footwear specific sewing machines. We've got a screen printing studio, which I kind of like. 3D printers. We've got a huge design library that's just packed with thousands and thousands of books. We've got books from the 20s and stuff in there, like and all the way up to the most recent like good type books that came out, like Bobby Dixon's in, and a couple other people from our friends are in. And let's see what else we've got, like a shop area with laser cutters, a bunch of hand tools. We've got a 3D CNC router.
That sounds awesome, man. That sounds so cool. Are you guys on the main Nike campus in Portland?
We're on not the main campus. We're on, I think it's West Campus, Northwest Campus. But yeah, we're purposely like away from the main campus, just far enough that like designers
can't come and bug people there.
Yeah, it's like
people can hide a little bit.
To commit to going there. It's not like a huge commitment, but like it's enough that you got to like walk 5-10 minutes or something like that. I mean, we're still surrounded by Nike buildings and stuff like that, but we're away from a lot of the main design buildings.
Right. That's amazing. Like that sounds really, really cool, man. Like when you say dream job and then like you run that space, like that does sound like a dream job.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So like basically, like I said, I've been teaching screen printing, how it happened. Because I initially wasn't hired on to do this job at Nike. Before my foot in the door was, like I said, Lonnie Hurley. And I was doing t-shirt separations for the NFL. That was my job. And there was only one other guy in all of Nike that did t-shirt separations, which is crazy because like there are hundreds of t-shirts that Nike produces every season. And it was just one guy before me. And he's been there for, I think, 25 years now. And he's amazing at his job. So I was brought in doing t-shirt separations for NFL. That expanded into like all of licensed, which is like NFL, MLB, some basketball. Before we had the NBA. And then stuff like boxing. So I was doing like Manny Pacquiao separations for like,
that's awesome.
And one of the big asks from the Nike design community, which is huge, there's over 1,000 designers at Nike. So one of their main asks was a place that they could go and actually physically design, because we were bursting at the seams on campus, and like every room that was kind of like dedicated as a studio space was eventually taken over. It just became like a meeting space or like a build out room for upcoming seasons where they'd show off product and stuff like that. So about 3 years into my journey, it was like, okay, we're getting a design space. We're going to put screen printing in there. And my manager asked me, was like, hey, you screen print posters and stuff, and like, about screen printing, do you want to help out? And I was like, sure. And I ended up helping out. The studio director for Blue Ribbon Studios is Ryan Noon, and he's my boss now, and he's been there since the beginning. And he just kind of asked me once we got rolling, was like, do you want to hang out? And like, I could use a hand, because it was just me and him initially in 15,000 square feet, like servicing 1,000 designers. And I was like, of course, yeah. And I just stuck around and kind of just created my own job in this studio space.
That's amazing, dude.
Eventually, so I was doing 2 jobs for about a year and a half. So I was still doing all my license separations, and then I was in the studio every day teaching classes and working on like doing poster projects or printing off samples and working on shoes and stuff like that. So it was a long journey.
So at even though you are in that space now, do you do any design work that ends up as product line?
I've had input on stuff. It's not like I'm handed briefs or anything for a specific product or anything like that. And that's one of the cool things about my job is like, I get to work with designers in all categories and like across all of the whole company. So like I can work with a footwear designer one day, and we can be working out like print techniques for a new fabric that they're working on, to see if it'll actually screen print and how the durability is, or and then the next day I could be helping a designer like print a shirt sample and like recommend a different type of ink that they might want to use that's more suitable for the application or something like that. And then I could be printing posters to give away to the design community like the day after that. So like specific things that I have worked on, like special projects. I was able to work on the Nike Bike Town bikes. So like there's a bike share program in Portland that's sponsored by Nike.
You broke up a little bit. You broke up a little bit there. Can you start back with the Nike bike thing?
Yeah. So one of the specific programs I was able to work at, one of the specific projects I was able to work on was the Nike Bike Town project. So Portland has a big bike share program called Bike Town, and it's sponsored by Nike. All the bikes basically look like Nike shoe boxes with like the orange with like the hazard gray stripes and everything. They say Bike Town on them. But every once in a while they do special editions that are kind of like Nike DNA influenced. So they'll have ones that are like a safari print or like an Air Max print or something on it. Uh-huh. And recently, I think it was about 2 years ago, they did an open call for designs, and I got to make one of the bikes for different neighborhoods. So there were like 5 sectors of Portland, and I ended up working with an outside designer to create a Paul Bunyan bike, which
that's awesome.
It was like a really crudely drawn illustration of the Paul Bunyan statue in Portland, and I got to put it on a bike, and it was just like, it was so ridiculous, and I'm so surprised that they actually made it, because like the guy's wearing like jeans, and like the arms are the forks of the front wheel, and I mean it just
No,
looks
I'm gonna go
ludicrous.
I'm gonna go find that, because as this every episode, like when people talk about stuff, like I pull up images and plop them up on the screen between the two of us. So I got to find this Paul Bunyan bike.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and then there's like stuff that like I work on. I was able to work on like the Nike Pride projects where, or like Movember and stuff like that, or we'll grow out mustaches and we'll print out shirts for campus
sure.
and stuff like that. So,
Dude, that sounds so cool. That's like such a cool opportunity to like live creatively, at your day job. Like, even I'm guessing even all the designers there are like, God, Barksdale's got the job I wish I had.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it definitely humbles you to go into a space and know that like you're really privileged in being able to go into work and just have like almost complete freedom to experiment and help people push their designs further just by like an idea that you have in your head or something stupid that you saw on the internet, and or they'll come to you with something like that and be like, yeah, let's make it, let's figure it out. Like, and that's kind of like one of the reasons why the studio is so successful, is because there isn't a whole lot of expectation as to like what is done there. Like, of course they want, like, the design leadership wants people to like have stuff that they can use come out of there, but
Sure.
It's also really apparent in like a lot of the failings that designers experience, really do help them, or just having something that they can work on that isn't their day job. Like, you can come and like bang out a risograph print doesn't have anything to do with Nike. Mm-hmm. You can print something out like on your lunch break or something and just make something, and the expectation isn't there to produce anything like super useful, as long as you can expand your creative experience from it.
That's super cool, because that's like a thing that I think often gets overlooked by people who aren't in the creative arts, is that we have to refuel, and sometimes you need to refuel from places that aren't part of like your normal focus. Like, if you're an illustrator, maybe you need to read a book on design, or you need to watch a movie, or read a novel, or whatever it is. It's important, and it is an overlooked part of our profession that that's like it has to happen. I know for me, a lot of times it's film. Like, I get my creative juices get replenished by watching movies. And so, yeah, I totally get that. And that's cool that you are in a position to help facilitate that for people.
Yeah. And one of the great things is we put on like a lot of like speaker series and stuff like that. We'll bring in people to come and talk to designers, or we'll put on classes. That's one of our main things at the studio, is programming. And, we've got like the traditional stuff where it's like screen printing, sewing, learn how to dye, or like drawing classes. But then we'll bring in like, oh, you want to learn how to, like, we're going to do a little quick pop-up class where it's like, we're going to teach you how to tie knots. Or like, another one is like, we've got a lot of plants in the studio, and we've got this like gardener guy that comes in, and his name's Plant Daddy. And we do plant care like classes. So like, people learn how to take care of their plants. And yeah, like,
that's
like
so
we
cool,
had a Yeah, we had like a mycology class where like you would like they talked about mushrooms, and then being in the Pacific Northwest, and went out and did a mushroom hunt for like half a day. Um, and like designers, we get feedback all the time. It's just like this helps me so much. It just like because it lets me like kind of recharge, or it's something I don't have to think about design, or it will trigger something where it makes them think even further into design, where it's like, oh, like what happens like if we infuse some sort of like fungus into a leather or something like that, and it's like, can we do that? Well, let's figure it out. Like yeah, it's crazy. Like
That's so cool, man. That is so super cool. I know me and you, like, I knew that you were there that you've been there for a long time. And I knew, and I knew that you ran some type of program kind of like this. Cause we talked a little bit about, my goalie mask work, and if that was something that would be of benefit, to that studio. And then, nothing ever came of it, which is, I totally understand. But, so yeah, but I had no idea the scope of what that studio was. And that is so cool. Like, I wonder how many other companies invest that much into their designers like that. I bet it's not that many.
There are other studios around. Like Adidas does have one.
Okay.
They've got one in Brooklyn. And then they I think they also have another smaller one at their headquarters in Portland. And then there's the Facebook Analog Research Lab, which is on they have one on their main campus in San Francisco or wherever.
Mountain View, California.
Yeah.
I know that because my oldest son, he lived like on the same kind of block as the Facebook campus for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm from that area up there. So yeah, I believe, do you remember SGI computers, Silicon Graphics computers?
Mm-hmm.
I think Facebook took over SGI's building, and it's become something totally different since then. But yeah, so I know exactly where that is.
Yeah. So, and funny enough, so we went down there, like our studio team went down to San Francisco and did a tour of the Facebook Analog Research Lab. And we got that arranged through Andy Mack, through Gigposters. So Andy McDougall. And the guy who was running it at the time it was set up was Nick Wilson from Gigposters, who ran the Half and Half in, South Carolina. So just all sorts of Gigposters alumni coming together to make all this creativity happen.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy. And
I think actually I might be wrong, and I might be like messing up who it was, but I think Barry Blankenship maybe
name
was the guy that started. Familiar. Yeah, he's an old Austin guy. I think Pavito used to run with him, maybe. But he was one of the starting dudes that started the Facebook Analog Research Lab. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that! With a lot of us, it always comes back around to GP, man. It's
I know it's crazy. It's crazy.
I mean, I know for sure that I wouldn't have anywhere near the career that I've been able to have without the connections and the things that I learned there. And I wouldn't even be able to have half the guests I have on this damn show if it wasn't for that. You know what I mean? It's like I'm like cashing in all my chips from the Gigposters people, which is great though, because it's like it's like, how else would anybody ever hear about something like what you do, or like Jeff Pivito and like all the stuff that he's done, or Jim Mazza, or and even going back to, like I was saying, like Robert Plant, like he's writing a book, and so now I got an author on, that is somebody that I met through that website. It's pretty crazy. So your personal art, is that something that you still spend a lot of time on, or you know, because I know you have kids now and stuff like that. Are you still like pretty active making new stuff for your store and like posters and stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still doing posters as often as I can. Which, I mean, nowadays it's like I'm not like going out to like hustle and try and like, oh, I got to track down another poster gig because I just want to make a poster. It's like I want to make a poster for this band that I really like. I'm just gonna reach out to them and see if they're interested. And yeah, I make as much as I can. It's just it's kind of like just for me now, because like I am kind of, I get fulfilled a lot from my day job, but at the same time, like when creativity hits for me now, it's like, it's got to be like good. Like, yeah, I feel really inspired to make something. Whereas before it was just kind of like, I'm bored, I got to make something. It's like, but yeah, like working at Nike though, like gave me an opportunity to really, be around really, really great designers and, be able to bounce stuff off of them like in person, or just like look over somebody's shoulder, like watch how they're moving around on the screen, and like see how a design develops from like an initial paper sketch all the way to like a completed product. And that's I think has been like really beneficial to me working as a designer, and helped me like come up with even stupider stuff than I could imagine before. So, yeah, like I do still make stuff for myself and put it up on my website, and make koozies whenever some stupid stupid thing comes into my head, or
right.
Or like
That reminds me of that Andrew, one of his things, if you could go follow him on Instagram, is he kind of takes famous album covers and replaces different things in them with slices of pizza. And so it'll be like a black metal album cover, and it'll like just be changed into some pizza theme thing, which is, dude, those always crack me up every time I see those. And it reminds me of John Santos, shout out Santos Art. He does kind of a similar thing, but with ducks. Like he'll he'll put ducks into like famous like heavy metal art, and it's hilarious. I love stuff like that. My mind does not work that way, so when I see other people do that stuff, because you know, it's like one of those things, like as artists, we all have feelings about other people's art. And one of the things for me is that when I see people do things that I wouldn't have thought of, or just don't have the skill to create myself, like it's always way more impressive to me. Even if it's something silly like the pizza thing, I'm always like, that's just such like, anything I can't think of, I always hold in like higher regard. You know, I don't know if that's like just me, or if that's like every creative person does the same thing. But
oh yeah, it's totally like, I mean, my big thing, like, I'm not a great illustrator or anything like that. I don't think I'm a great designer by any means. I might be a little bit funny.
No, you're totally
Photoshop. Funny, so I guess that like the pizza album project, like if you go to my website, I think I've got like 95% of the pizza albums that I made archived on there. I ended up making like a few hundred album covers, where it's just like any album cover like from a major band, I tried to just, okay, how can I'm gonna
put some up on screen while we're talking so that people can like, see how awesome they are.
How can I shoehorn a slice of pizza into this like iconic album cover? And I mean, the whole way that came about was, like I was thinking, I was going down to Flatstock and I was like, man, I think I want to make some T-shirts to sell in addition to my posters, because my posters kind of suck, but I can make a decent T-shirt. And I came up with, I think the iconic one was like the Led Zeppelin Icarus holding up the slice of pizza, and it just says pizza under it. And I was just like, okay, people like music and people like pizza. All right, fine, let's make that. And like, it's been like, I've been selling it, I think, for like 6 years now, and like they're constantly in stock. And okay, like, let's do another one. Like, I love Black Sabbath. Let's put a slice of pizza at Black Sabbath, and like volume 4. There you go. Ozzy's holding up a slice of pizza. Like,
that's super killer, man. It's such a clever idea. Yeah, I'm gonna post some images off of your website of that, because I think people will fucking love that.
Yeah.
So I know, like I said, like I'm a fan of your art, you're one of the. I am the asshole artist who rarely buys art from other people, but I buy stuff from you.
Yeah,
so when you agreed to be on, I was like, yes, we got Barksdale. So I people who listen to the show are familiar with the fact that I send all of my guests like a little form, like, fill this out, so I have some kind of idea what you do and what you want to talk about, and things that you might do that are outside of what your normal stuff is. And you'd put down 3 different things: that you watch a lot of TV, that you are building a motorcycle, and that you're working on an old truck. And so let's just go in a quick succession of those. What's your TV stuff? Like, what shows are you super into?
Man, like anything that's on HBO, like like the new
Sure.
Perry Mason's great.
Yeah.
Let's like, I'll watch. I'm a sucker. Like, I'll watch anything. Like, just throw it in front of me. Like, let me just like tune out and let me just zone out on the TV, and I'll take it in. And if I like it, I'll complete the series. And if I don't like it, I'll force myself to complete the series and like waste hours of my life.
I used to be that way, where like if I started, I kind of had to finish. And then I can't remember. There was I think it was The Walking Dead was like the first time where I was like,
Oh.
I'm not watching any more of this. Like, it's like, I got to the point where I was like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally get that. But yeah, like Perry Mason, I watched the first episode because like I like do little scouting reports for my wife, where I'll like watch episode 1 of something after she goes to bed, and then I'll be like, okay, so we got this thing that we need to start watching because you're gonna like it, or I'll be like, yeah, I watched this thing, I'm not sure you're into it, but so I watched the first Perry Mason because I actually had a guest on who's an actor, whose episode is actually coming up really soon, who has a role on Perry Mason. And he was telling me when we were recording, he's like, yeah, I'm like, I was like, what do you got going on? And he's like, oh, I'm in an episode of that upcoming HBO show. So I was like, okay, cool. I was like excited to check it out, even though the original Perry Mason TV show that we kind of grew up watching reruns of was the most boring, child-friendly TV show in the history of television shows.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't know. And then I found out it's like completely different character, but anytime anything Hollywood, the city of Hollywood related, I'm gonna at least give it a chance, because I'm just I love this city so much. And so yeah, I like loved that first episode, and I was like, Christy, you need to watch this. And then we decided that we were gonna stop and let the season run through so we could binge it, rather than waiting every week, because right now we're in the midst of that with the one about the Golden State serial killer that's on right now.
Oh yeah.
And we started watching it, and then like every day, like Chrissy isn't aware of what day the new episodes are on, because I just have never told her. So,
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh, do we have a new one of the serial killer ones yet?" And I'm like, "Nope,
Not yet."
not yet." So she's like, "Damn, I guess
wait.
she had never watched Orange is the New Black when it was in its run, and so we're kind of going back and watching Orange is the New Black, and I'd only ever watched it once, every season that it came out. So it's like, nope, no new serial killer show. So I guess we'll go watch some more episodes of Orange is the New Black. And it was like a bunch of Showtime shows that she'd never watched, because like she's one of those people in the 90s and 2000s where she didn't even own a television. She was like so busy doing her thing that she just didn't watch TV. So like she had never watched The Sopranos. She had never watched 6 Feet Under. She'd never watched like all of these HBO shows. So we've been going back and rewatching all that stuff, and like, Ray Donovan on Showtime and stuff. So yeah, I'm right there with you with the, like, if you sit me down in front of it, I'm probably going to watch all of it.
Yeah. I guess one thing that I watched that I haven't heard like a lot of like internet chatter about is I just wrapped up 000 on Amazon, and that was pretty cool. Like the whole, it's about the cocaine trafficking and like how it makes the start from Mexico,
like the lifeline of a bindle of cocaine. Yeah, that's like on our list of things to watch. Every time we see the little trailer, we're like, oh, that looks really good. So we're gonna get to that one at some point for sure. And then like, the only, Jesus Christ, like I haven't watched ABC, CBS, NBC at all in like a decade, because there's just so much. I mean, even longer than that probably. I think Survivor is like the last major network TV show that I still watch. But then Christy worked on Stumptown, which is topical to your Portland thing, even though it's like all filmed in Los Angeles. Spoiler alert. But she worked on that TV show, and so we watched that, and we were like, yeah, like not feeling too bad about being off of the regular network tit. Although I won't talk too much shit, because one of the actresses from Stumptown is scheduled to be a guest. So, but I actually did like that show. It was a good show. It was it did a good job of like being as edgy as it could for a major network show. And I'm always thankful for anything that my wife works on that allows us to, live how we live, because we do well. And, she works on a bunch of Netflix stuff. She's on every season. She's worked on every season of Atypical on Netflix. And we're beyond, honored to be a part of that whole family. From the writers, producers, actors, everybody on that show is just absolutely amazing. So yeah, we're to say that we're TV people, that's like our living, kind of comes from the television and movie stuff. But yeah, like, and then it kind of like transitioned like quickly into, so tell me about this truck, because I watch, Motor Trend. It's one of the only networks off of, like a subscription service that I actually watch a lot of. So what do you got? What's your truck?
So, I've been daily driving a 1973 Ford F-250 for, I think, the past 7 years or so, 8 years. It's in pretty good shape, It's got a huge 460 V8, 7.5 liter V8. So luckily I only have to drive about, like, my commute's like 4 miles. And I still have to like fill up the tank about every like week and a half. That just tells you like how fuel efficient it is.
Yeah, that is one of the problems with classics, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but it's one of those things where it's just like, I got it in my head where I was just like, I want an old car, but I want something kind of like useful. Old trucks are cool. So I just basically hopped on Craigslist and was just like searching and scouring. And I just had it in my mind that it's going to be like a old Ford dent side. And I searched and searched, and one day one popped up for like $2,500, and the thing was that I wasn't too worried about how like the body was and stuff like that. Like you could fix the body.
Yeah, all that stuff is fixable.
I wanted like a nice strong running truck, and like the pictures of the engine bay looked great. And I was like, called the guy up. I was like, hey, I want to come look at your truck. And he's like, sure. And I went and I test drove it that day, and it was advertised for $2,500. And like, so I test drove it and turned it back into him, and he's like, the lowest I can go is $1,250.
You're all, wait a minute. Don't blow up your own spot, dude.
Yeah. So I was like, sounds great, man. I'll take it.
Is it pretty stock? It's not like customized or anything like that. It's just like a stock.
No, it's stock. I mean, yeah, it looks great. It's got headers on it. It's got like straight pipes. And being a 1973 model, I don't have to go through DEQ for emissions or anything like that either. So it's like, which, I mean, I'm all for the environment and everything, but like the hassle of going.
Everything has its limits.
Yeah.
The hippie bullshit, it can only go so far.
Yeah. My freedom.
Yeah, my last classic was I had a 74 Honda Civic. So it was old enough that I didn't have to worry about smogging it either in California. But I mean, even that, like, even though it was a 74 with like a 25 horsepower motor, it still got like 35 miles to the gallon. But like,
yeah.
Is yours an automatic or a stick? Because I had to go back to a manual for a little while with that. And in LA, it was like, luckily my art studio was only like 3 miles away. So it was just like a short hop, like 3 exits down the freeway. But even that, like on my drives home, like if it was 6 or 7, it was like even that 3 miles would take me 30 minutes because I was just sitting in bumper to bumper. And with the manual, it was like super annoying.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's an automatic. A C6, a 3-speed automatic transmission. So it's fun. It's kind of annoying, but like I'm really the only person that's ever drove it because like my wife is like terrified of it. Anybody that I work with is like, no, I'm not. I don't want to drive your truck, dude. Like, but it's cool. I mean, it's given me like, it's one of those things where it's just like, I bought it, and like the whole reason why I got it is so I could learn how to like work on stuff. And I've like, whenever something's gone wrong with it, it's like, okay, I'm going to try and fix it myself. And if I can't do it, I'm going to call the tow truck and I'll drop the cash. But like, luckily, like I haven't had to, the only thing that like really crapped out on me is like my radiator burst. And like, I can't rebuild a radiator. So I had to take it down to a radiator shop. But other than that, like I've redone the alternator on it. I popped out the distributor and put a electronic distributor in it, and then I replaced the manual steering gearbox, the power steering gearbox on it, which was probably not the smartest thing to do by myself. As I was like undoing all the bolts, and like it was struggling to pull this like 40-pound hunk of like American made metal that's 50 years old and covered in power steering fluid and 50 years of grime. Like pulling that out, popping it back in. But yeah, like it's one of those things, and it's So, motorcycle. It was kind of like the same situation. I just got into my head. It's like, I've wanted a motorcycle for forever. Like I've wanted it for one for years. And like, I used to ride dirt bikes back in high school with a few friends. I never got like beyond that. I'd never had like the financial means to buy my own bike, or like something always came up where it was just like, motorcycle? Nope. Gotta pay off something. And I finally got into my head and I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm buying one. And I didn't tell my wife, which was, it was like, it just got in my head. I got a 1977 Yamaha XS 650. I bought it for $400, and it came in roughly 450 pieces. Yeah, I bought it with the idea that, it's going to be something that I'm going to teach myself how to make, and like I'm going to lean on like a lot of my friends that are like ride bikes and make their own bikes and stuff like that. So it's a learning experience. It's slowly coming together. I've had it for about a year, and it's to the point where like I'm gonna be probably testing out like the engine and then throwing in like all like the rough parts in and taking it on shakedown runs, hopefully in like the next couple months. So
that's awesome. That's super cool. I like that.
Yeah.
You are kind of constantly finding projects that are like kind of not exactly what you do all day, or like that stuff's awesome. It's like invaluable. It goes back to that refilling, your creative juices. Is like sometimes you need to do something totally different. Like I was talking to this death metal artist Mark Richards yesterday, and his thing is cooking. It's like it's the same with me. Is like my thing is like smoked barbecue, and like we were talking about how he's like, I go in the kitchen and I start cooking, and I don't have to think about anything but making food for like an hour or two, and it like replenishes like all like like I come out of there and like I can go back to work and my mind is free and clear and I'm not all jammed up with stuff. And so that's awesome that you do the same thing with like these automotive and motorcycle projects. That's like super cool.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where it's like growing up, I was never like mechanically inclined. My dad wasn't like a huge handyman or anything like that. Like he'd spread mulch around like in our yard, and that was about it. Like he was a golfer. Like he'd go golfing, and like and it's always something that has been intriguing, like working with your hands and like making something go. Right. And like cars and trucks and choppers, like that's like the coolest stuff. Like how can you not be interested in wanting to make something like that? It's like, even like, I don't know, like everybody likes looking at cars. Sure. And stuff like that. Like even if you're not a car guy, people know what a cool car is. Yeah. Almost. Well, usually there's
right. Totally. I think one of the things also that is really that we benefit from in this country is that we have old carbureted engine vehicles that pretty much anybody who wants to take just a little bit of time to pay attention to how to fix and repair that stuff, you can learn how a carbureted combustion engine works really, really easily. And it's like, we still have them. And it's like, once you get into fuel injection, it starts getting way more complicated, and electronic fuel injection, or just electronic, mm-hmm. portions of more modern cars. But like, if you open the hood on a 73 Ford pickup truck, you can find a diagram that will tell you immediately what every single piece in there is. And it's not rocket science. And so, just being able to like fix that stuff yourself is like, it's very gratifying. Like,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Having the ability to like, just like kind of listen to something like while your engine is running and being like, oh yeah, I know what that is. Like, and you can then pop the hood and look at it and be like, yeah, that's where that sound's coming from. I know exactly what it is. I guess kind of like the drawback is like anytime now that's like something is going wrong with one of my friends' cars, they're like, hey, I'm the car guy. And I'm like, I'm not a car guy, dude. Like, I'm a YouTube mechanic. Like,
the problem that I had with my little Honda was that it was such a rare car, and it was made for such a short amount of time that getting parts for it was like ridiculous. And once it started to go, it was like once one thing started, it was just like a chain reaction of stuff. And I was like, it's time for me to get a vehicle that has like working locks and, working windshield wipers and air conditioning and, things like that. Cause it was like, it didn't have any of that shit on it. It was the most stripped down car humanly imaginable. It was in insanely good shape when I got it, and I drove it for 3 or 4 years. And by the time, it's like, I parked on the street in Los Angeles. It would get just dinged all the time. And then I actually sold it to a dad and son who were going to rebuild it, like kind of like from the ground up for the kid's first car. And so they just came with the trailer, picked it up and took it. And then the guy was super cool, and he sent me pictures as it got finished, and like I got to see the final completely restored vehicle when it was done. And I was like, that was super gratifying to see like it come back to life.
That's awesome. Yeah, totally. Like, I guess that's the good thing about having an old American truck is like you could practically just go to any junkyard across the United States and they're going to have a 70s era Ford in there. That's probably, that might be picked over, but might still have a bunch of parts in there
and a lot
too,
of stuff now is like they remake stuff for classic 60s and 70s vehicles for like almost everything. Like you could almost build an entire new Ford truck out of a catalog if you had to,
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, I've been fiending over 1970 Mustang Fastback lately. I'm like scouring the internet for one of those, and it's like you said, like you could basically build a Mustang. Like all you have to do is just find like some old VIN number or something, some rec number, buy that, then you can throw like a brand new body on it. And, like a Dynacorn shell or something.
You can like upgrade to like all new, chassis parts and brake systems. And, you can basically make a brand new car nowadays, which is, that's super cool. I love it. Me and my wife have been talking about, we bought a house like 3 years ago. So we're still in the process of renovating that into what we want it to be. So I think, the pandemic hasn't made that any easier to get done because we had a bunch of plans for this year, but I think we're another year away from being done with that. And then we're going to probably buy and redo like an old Dodge A100 van and turn it into kind of like a, like a little lowrider 60s Scooby-Doo van. That's kind of like what we're going to do. So yeah, we're, you're
going to go hang out at like old amusement parks and stuff.
We're going to be pulling mass off of all them old dudes.
I knew it was an old white guy.
Rich old white man. You pesky kid. I would have gotten away with it. It wasn't for you pesky kids. Dude, this has been a super great talk. Like, I'm going to let you get back to your family and, the rest of your day, get your weekend started. It's, Friday afternoon. But this has been super awesome. It was like super cool to hear about your job and that Nike studio. And, I appreciate you giving me your time.
Yeah, no problem. Glad to share. And, it's always great. And to be able to kind of speak about like the stuff that I'm passionate about, and like let it be known that there's like there is a giant corporation that is out there that really is advocating for like good design and stuff like that. And
yeah, that's cool.
It's super fun.
That's great. I'm gonna bug you for some pictures for some things that I can put up. But super cool, man. I appreciate it, and enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.